that we have a resilient ag sector and that the farmers feel supported. So last year, we actually launched a mental health and wellness program at the department, the Mass Grown Wellness Program. And we recognize that farmers like to confide in other farmers and work with the farming community when they have challenges to share those challenges with one another. So Meg is trained as one of our peer support network members as a farmer herself and working in 4-H. And she's doing a great job in revitalizing 4-H and the awareness. And there's more of an effort now to bring 4-H into the inner city and make sure that it's accessible to all youth.
Absolutely. So Meg is getting ready to come up. And if you're watching, usually we, transition and go to commercial, but we're in real time today. And so, Commissioner, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate you. Meg, come on and have a seat. For those of you that are just tuning in, and yes, I got the little note about the volume and the sound, so we have that all set. And Commissioner, at some point, I want you to come back on in the morning as well on the show, and we'll have an in-depth conversation. And so, Meg, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm excited to have you here, and along with the other work you do, but I remember like 4-H, and I know you do a lot more, but I just have an affinity. I'm trying to think where I was out of town recently, on my way to Connecticut. And I saw a 4-H sign and I got nostalgic. I'm like, wow, the Double Dutch competition back in the day, a lot of the agricultural work that they do. And so in addition to that, first of all, say good afternoon to the folks.
Hello, everybody.
Tell us a little bit about who you are. And are you obviously you're a farmer if you're in the support network. Tell us a little bit about the farm and your family history and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm actually like the total opposite of Ashley, meaning like I don't have any farming in my family. My parents are both born and raised in Boston and moved out to the suburbs when they had their kids. And I kind of got involved in this whole thing by attending a 4-H summer camp, kind of like out of a necessity of, putting your kids someplace safe for daycare while your parents are working and things like that. And so that was a pretty like critical turning point, in my life where, this was a community of people that were very welcoming. And so as I aged up, I went to UMass Amherst, got a science degree. And when I got out of college, going to college for environmental science and biology was actually not so great on my mental health. And this is a number of years ago before I think we really even understood, kind of like the extent of it. But so I kind of turned back around and got really into education and working with youth. And, I think one of the things that I can really relate to and one of the reasons why, I am invested in this peer health network is because not everybody who gets into agriculture has a supportive family or an understanding family of, people that you can, go to when things aren't going so well, So again, my family thinks I'm totally crazy to be a farmer. You know what I mean? It's not really something that they can kind of relate to. So, we oftentimes will hear from people who are potentially not even, from this area. They don't really have like a good, strong network of people around them. So, to have a group of farmers that have gone through, real professional training. So now when we pick up the phone, we're not only are we lending like an understanding ear, but we're also able to, connect people to resources that can help them.
Sorry, can you also speak to me about the partnership with Mdar and the commissioner smiled when she was getting ready, when we were talking about you coming on, she had to give her own introduction as well. What is that partnership like with Mdar and how does that support work for you being a peer supporter?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously Mdar has the ability to kind of rise to the need of what farmers in our area need. I mean, obviously, I work with 4-H, which is it's a USDA-led program, which is on a federal level. But then to have somebody at like a state level that's really, able to kind of like drill down to what the people of Massachusetts need. We do a lot of work in 4-H around the country. And when we tell people we're from Massachusetts, people kind of like joke, like, are there even farmers in Massachusetts? Like, is that still a thing? And, of course, we do have a vibrant community of agriculture. It's just smaller. I mean, even when you look at the national numbers, you'll hear these numbers thrown around a lot that, only 1% of America's workforce works in agriculture. Had you not heard that one? Yeah.
I have not. Now, is that true? Only 1%.
Yes. It's we, obviously over time, with improvements in like mechanization and things like that. But the other issue too is that the average age of the American farmer is close to 59 years old, right? So like we can all do the math here and say like that might not be the most sustainable, situation, right? And we want to do more to pull young people in. And one of the things is that, Mdar on their level, again, like Ashley mentioned, some of the grant work that they're doing, they're trying to find ways to help farmers stay in Massachusetts and like be financially sustainable. Because I'm closer to 50 than I am to anything else these days. And, a lot of farming friends that I've had to like leave Massachusetts to go to places where like land's more affordable, because it can be, like I say, an expensive and hard place to farm. And what can make it even harder is if you don't have like a network of people that can like help you out, not just through mental health, but like in every way. So Mdar has recognized that, and they're trying to really do a lot, as far as like whether it's like educational workshops, this peer support network, grant funding, getting more people on the ground. And I've seen a difference. I've been in the ag space for about 20 years, and just the 20 years that I've been here, I mean, I've seen Mdar like really double down on their commitment.
It's so interesting, and I don't want to deviate too much, but Commissioner Randall mentioned it, and you talked about it with your family and whatnot, but I heard you say something that makes me want to go back to the question with that peer support group, with, sometimes not maybe feeling like you have the full support. You mentioned your family and everything that comes with. One of the farmers mentioned today that even with tomatoes, like it was an up and down season because of the rain, the acidity. I farmed 1 year, so I learned a little bit about that. If I could just check in and ask from a mental health standpoint, having that support of Mdar and then being able to give back to others, how does that help your mental health?
I mean, it's huge for me. I mean, one of the reasons that, I'm very committed to this program, like I said before, is, just creating this community. And then also, I mean, one of the reasons that I got into agriculture is because, I myself personally, I grew up with like debilitating anxiety. Like, you would never see that about me now. I mean, I'm here talking to you.
With you. Not at all. You're like chilling and just.
I know. I seem it's like a duck, like everything's cool on the surface, and they're like, boo, 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 boo. So yeah. But no, I mean, like when I was going through this in the 80s, I remember like it was so down low. Like my mom was an ER nurse. She was pretty progressive. She got me into like therapy as a very young kid. And I remember like telling all my friends, like I have to go to like a doctor's appointment, because like you wouldn't be telling people that like you're going to therapy. They'd think you were like a total weirdo, Whereas like now with my own kids, we obviously know there's a genetic link to a lot of like depression, anxiety, things like that. And so, one of my kids, it's so funny to me. I mean, like she's like, oh, talking about her therapist, and all of her friends are chiming in with all. I'm like, wow, this is like it's like a whole new world out there, right?
It's actually a movement and a trend to address your mental health. Definitely.
It is a trend, but then I want you guys to picture like a farmer they tend to be very independent people, like very stubborn, very independent. And I think for a lot of people who work in the ag world, especially people who might be, my age or even older, that's not a place where they feel comfortable talking about like weakness or, just kind of being like having that honest conversation of like, I'm not doing so good right now, And so one of the things about the peer network is that like you can go online and there's like if you don't want to talk to anybody, you don't have to. You can go online and there's like different resources of places that you can get in touch with. Like if it's an emergency, they have emergency, health centers. If you want to talk to somebody, like the peer network is a really like wide variety of people. So there's people that are older, younger, like, different backgrounds, like different ages, races, different kinds of farming. So then that way, like if you're going to call somebody up, like you could go on that list and probably know half the people, right? So if you don't want to talk to somebody that like you can pick someone that seems like they're going to be a good fit for you to chat with, and you can call them right up. So
Meg, I'm not a farmer, but you make me want to be a farmer just to get in the network and get the support. Because
oh my gosh,
the energy you're exuding, and you talk about anxiety. I know we're not in the mental health space, but the commissioner did mention it about that is one of the things from the support network that is important. Thank you for teaching me about the 1%. As much as food is a priority for humanity, kind of shocked to hear that it's 1% of the workforce. The other piece that it was surprising to hear, but when you say it, I can put it together. When you talk about the population of farmers tend to be independent. May I ask, generally in either Massachusetts or nationally, are most farmers identify as male?
That's actually a great question. So, because I remember when I first got into agriculture, I was like 20-year-old, like lady on the scene, and it was like all these old guys, and definitely didn't feel like I was one of the boys, at that time. But women are one of the fastest, growing, members of the farming community. And, I think it's a pretty natural space for women to be in, and, you think about like growing food, taking care of things, keeping things alive. I mean, I'm also a mom, and some days I run from the farm where I'm keeping an animal alive, and then I go back to my kids and try to keep them alive too, so it all feels very familiar. And I would say too, with time passing, it's one of the things about working in 4-H and working with youth is that, I also, on the flip side, try to be like a mentor to like young people to get them into farming. Because, like I say, there's a lot of obstacles, whether that be like land access or, even like financially, like making like a living. I've had so many people over the years say, hey, like you seem like a really smart person. Like you should probably get like a real job that, and I'm like, hey, it's funny because people can actually be called to farming for so many different reasons. And I can't honestly imagine now at this stage in the game, like being part of like any other community outside of agriculture. One of the things that you mentioned was, I think one of the things I like best about my job is that people from like all different backgrounds, like they could call me up and be like, I need you right now. It doesn't matter like who that person voted for. It doesn't matter like what you identify as. It's like, I feel like farmers in general, they like will always put like the need like ahead of all of that. And they'll come to help out like anybody who needs that. And I feel like if we could translate that into other areas of society, like we would be doing pretty good. So.
I come from a religious background, preacher, and we do the amen stuff in church. And I just, so much of what you're saying resonates with me. And I asked that question about males because you talk about independence, to your point about mental health. And, men tend not to address things. Yeah. And so I asked about that percentage, but I want to salute the facts that in general, women are the number one demographic of entrepreneurs in the country. And so women are a growing population within the farming industry as well.
Yes.
And so they would be blessed to have you as a mentor.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually really funny because the peer network, we're still trying to get the word out to people in the farming community through a bunch of different ways. But so far, I've only had one phone call like through the peer network, and that person was a female. And it kind of struck me as funny because I have a bunch of farmer friends who'll pick up the phone and call me. And one of them is like a very old school farmer that like in a million years, if you were like, hey, would you call up like a peer support network? He'd be like, oh my gosh, like that hippy dippy stuff. No, but he will call me up to be like, hey, I have this going on. I have that going on. And it's like, it feels very familiar to like the things that I've been trained to do here through this network. And we're having those conversations, but he would never identify it as like, this is a call for help. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm just calling my old friends. So part of being, a peer to people is really just being like that ear to listen in a time of need.
It speaks to just the impact of the peer network and the support. And you exude sort of that genuine, authentic, organic concern for, your peers and those that are in the network. And so, Meg, I got to say, it was an honor.
Such a pleasure to meet you.
Let me tell you, she has a handshake and a half. Hold on for 1 second. No, I'm messing. But it comes from tilling and doing things like that. So within that context. So Meg, thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much.
And keep us abreast of things that are going on that you all are doing, because there are a lot of urban farmers in communities where I'm coming from. And someone tried to give me that title, and I only did a garden once.
Yeah,
but I
got to start somewhere.
Oh, thank you.
You're farming on a small level. And I will just give a shout out too. So myself and a bunch of awesome youth, we are at the Marshfield Fair through next Sunday. So if you want to see youth in action, that's where we'll be.
And the last thing before you go is, can you slowly give the website? Are you on social media, or does your farm have a website? Like, because I know some folks are going to want to follow you and just like, you should have a whole TikTok and whatnot, because you would be wonderful. Wouldn't she? Give her a hand. Wouldn't she be wonderful?
Thank you guys.
On social media?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I've been asked now to do 2 reality farming TV shows. And I tell people, like, I don't even get my wedding pictures developed. So like, I think I'm the wrong lady for that. So yeah. But I mean, I am accessible on social media. My name's Meg Riley. I am on Facebook. You can definitely find me. yeah.
Y'all give Meg a hand. It was definitely a pleasure interviewing you. Thank you. Folks, if you were just tuning in, and I got the note again about the sound, I see it on the phone. We are here. We have the sound and everything is going well. I had the opportunity to bring before you now Amy, and I want to get this right, Hirschfield. I did it. So if you follow Java with Jimmy, I'm known for butchering names very bad. And so the fact that I got this right, I am so excited that I got that right. And you're coming up, Chelsea and everybody in Mdar, thank you for having such wonderful folks to interview. It just makes things so much easier. And so, Amy, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do. And I have the notes here, but I want to hear it directly from you. And then we'll have a conversation about the impact of the work that you do.
So I'm the owner of Saluna Garden Farm. We're a really small, just 1 acre farm about 9 miles away from here. So we're not quite urban, but definitely not in what's considered usual farmland in Massachusetts. We grow cut flowers and herbs. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about being a flower farmer is a lot of people are aware of agriculture when they think about food, but they don't often think about where other things that are grown come from, like flowers. And in the past, there was a pretty big industry of flower farmers in the United States that has almost all gone down to South America now, or Europe, that there aren't as many flower farmers as there used to be. But people starting to learn that you can buy flowers that are grown locally, and that supports the entire agricultural community. It keeps open space for agriculture, and it's an important part of the whole agricultural system. And I've also been involved in setting up a farmers market in my community, and really just the idea of how important agriculture is to everything everyone does, even if they don't really realize it.
That's the thing I think that was so amazing that Meg shared, to find out that like the workforce, and I believe it was nationally, if I'm right, is 1% of, or the agricultural workforce is 1% of the overall United States workforce. Now you have me curious to try to figure out of that 1%, how much are in the flower industry. And so I don't find it too surprising, because when I visit farmers markets, there's always a vendor there or a tent where you see sunflowers and plants and different type of flowers. And so thank you for making that correlation. How important is it for the public in general to know that them supporting and buying flowers can save you in a spouse or partner situation? They're given for, celebrations and whatnot. But what is the economic impact that we can have with the knowledge that flowers is a part of agriculture and a part of the ecosystem of agriculture?
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the idea that flowers are part of celebrations. Yes. They're a joyful thing that makes people happy. And when we talk about the importance of mental health, it might not seem like it, but buying yourself flowers or buying someone you love flowers is something that just brings a little bit of joy into your day. And there have actually been studies done that if you look at flowers in your home when you wake up in the morning, having flowers in your house, you actually will have a positive mental health response just from seeing flowers. So I think the idea that there are so many specialty crops in Massachusetts, whether that's cranberries, whether that's flowers, it's a chance to see the real diversity of agriculture and how many different things are produced locally. And knowing that you can support local farms, local economies, and not just by what you eat, but everything you do, whether that's herbal medicine and products made by small farmers, whether that's value-added products from vegetable farmers, whether it's flowers, but there's so many different ways of becoming involved in supporting local agriculture that people maybe don't think about. And it does make a big difference to farmers and to just the whole agricultural industry. Because as we've heard, there aren't as many real ideas of farming as something that happens in Massachusetts. You don't think of it. And a lot of farms are smaller farms. And there are not, as Meg mentioned, not every farm is something that is a multi-generational farm. There are a lot of people that are getting into farming as a new profession for them, and the opportunities provided by Mdar for learning and support are really so important. And I love that they're focusing on mental health, because farming can be a really hard, really isolating thing to do. And a lot of farmers kind of have that attitude of we have to tough it out, and maybe aren't as used to asking for help. And having such a prominent resource focused on mental health, I think, is really important.
Kind of maybe atypical or maybe not expected to be a place that we would spend a lot of time in partnering with Mdar here at Boston Public Market. But there's been this theme of mental health with our farmers and with our providers today. And so I just want to name that, and the commissioner kind of set the trend when she talked about the peer support network. But I've partnered with some folks, you know, being an activist in mental health, being a teacher in mental health, but never, ever have we thought about really making space for those that grow our food, grow our flowers, herdle livestock, to really consider the mental health impact. And one last question in that space, and though you understand the joy of flowers, do you as a farmer feel a responsibility to produce your understanding of what flowers can do, the contribution it's making to the ecosystem? How do you balance the pride in your product, knowing that the end user may smile, the end user may get forgiven for something? How does that, you talked about joy. I'll sum it up and say, how does that work bring you joy?
I think it's really just people seeing what is possible, what we can grow here in Massachusetts, and seeing, especially for us being a very small farm, seeing what's possible on a small space. Because a lot of people think, oh, I don't have any way to be involved with farming and agriculture. And even if somebody grows their own little flower garden or little vegetable garden, it gives them a tiny bit of insight into what's involved in growing that makes them maybe appreciate and understand the importance of farmers who do this for a living in a way that they might not if they never try to grow something themselves.
It's so interesting, because when I had my little, and I can attest, I had 2 plots, the mental health impact of like going there and sitting and watching it grow. And I was talking to someone earlier, Morley, about the process of things. And so that is really true. And so I would be bothered by, like, if a cat bothered the bed, or, you know, different type of insects. You all are dealing with that on a whole macro level with things like soil rot or root rot and stuff. And so it does, I can't imagine, but I can imagine just from my little bit of experience. So I do appreciate what you said about if you even grow a little thing, even for folks that grow, I think it's the hydroponic, did I say it right? That one. When they grow that at home, I mean, you're getting that. There is something to watching something grow. Do you agree?
Absolutely. There is something really rewarding, but also anyone who's ever grown something like even a houseplant, you know that things go wrong, things die. And I often tell people when they first come to work for me, you're probably going to have to kill a lot of plants to learn how to keep them alive. And when you think about the fact that when farmers have plants that fail with pest pressure, weather, that's their livelihood. And the mental health impact of that, yes, it's a joyful thing to grow something, but there are so many factors that are beyond your control that you can't really always anticipate, especially with weather, climate change, things that can completely ruin an entire crop for a season. And that's a big pressure and something that's constantly almost hanging over you, even when you do have that space of joy and doing something that you know is meaningful. There is a lot of uncertainty, and you have to have a way to develop some kind of resilience to living with uncertainty. And that's why the support from other people is so important. Being a vendor here at the Boston Public Market has been really important for us to have just a place of community where there is support. There are other small businesses, other farmers who know what you're going through. And I think it's very hard to understand that if it's not something you've experienced. So that idea of peer support and community support is just something that really makes a huge difference.
So I'm glad to hear that some of our other guests are in other parts of the state, but folks can come down and experience your smile. You talk about the struggles and you talk about it with a smile. You talk about it with joy. And so I want to be intentional and everything about this has been good, but can you tell me what brings you joy in the space of the work that you do with flowers?
I think there are two things. One is I love in the morning when I walk through the field and just see what is there today that wasn't there yesterday. Okay. And that brings me a sense of joy just internally. But then when I bring a bouquet here in to sell at the public market and I see a customer look and say, oh my goodness, is that real? Or, oh my goodness, what is that? Or that was the flower I had in my wedding bouquet. And it gives them that little moment. Even if they don't buy the bouquet, it gives them that little moment of just something that is uplifting for that few moments that they're looking, smelling, touching the flowers.
Amy, I'm so like relaxed and calm and just like talking with you. I really love houseplants, and thank you for naming, because you did say, thank you for naming the fact that you may have to kill a couple. When you talked about that, I have a spider plant at home right now that looks like some raid got to it. Spider plant, get it dun. But thank you for the encouragement, because I'm probably going to get another one and start over. And so I probably need to come through and see you today. And so, Amy, thank you so much for being with us. And folks, I want to let you know that Amy is here at Boston Public Market, and she runs the Soluna.
Soluna Garden Farm.
I got two things right today in my pronunciation.
That's right.
Soluna Garden Farm, and you can find them at Soluna Garden Farm. That's SOLUN Garden, traditional spelling, farm, all one word.com. And you can navigate to meet the team, or you can go there to find out the hours here that Amy is at Boston Public Market. Amy, thank you. Can I give you a hug?
Thank you so much. Of course.
Thank you. Listen, we have a couple of more guests that are going to come speak with us. Our next guest is Pat Spence, who is president and CEO of the... Now, the only reason I'm smiling like this because this young lady followed me in. I was setting up, and she followed me in. She said, "You look like, are you doing the podcast?" And for like 2 or 3 minutes, well, where are they at? What are they doing? You know what? You never told me your name.
Patricia Spence from the Urban Farming Institute. Patricia Spence.
This is an in-time authentic moment, and you never gave any indication that you were going to be a guest of mine. And you came up in here and read. Did you do some research? Okay.
Not telling.
All right. So listen, I am excited to have you here after finding out who you are. But tell the audience who you are and what it is that you do besides coming in and just trying to be unassuming and what. Please introduce yourself to the people.
So Pat Spence with the Urban Farming Institute. Very happy to be here. And I'll also announce, so happy when you come to visit us at the Urban Farming Institute as well. So let me say that right now. So I've been with the Urban Farming Institute for 10 years. I was actually the first employee, and we were trying to figure out how to do urban farming in Boston, how to take that vacant land and convert it into productive farmland in Boston. So that's where we started. And our mission is to basically promote and develop urban agriculture to engage all of our residents in growing food and building a healthy community. That's what we're all about. And what I found in the very beginning is I thought I was brought in to grow food, but that was only the beginning. We're really here to grow people and to help elevate the people in our community. So this topic of mental wellness that's what we do. That's what we do. We're trying to raise everybody up through this medium called food And when you put your hands in the soil, that is the beginning of regeneration for ourselves as human beings. Hands in the soil, and it uplifts us.
So I've done this show here a few times, and I don't think I've ever been like stomped after. And Cheryl said some great stuff. Citizens Bank has said some great stuff. But I mean, just if you're listening, as you have been to the guests today, and again, our commissioner sort of set the tone. So it sort of speaks to this community of support within the agricultural community. You talk about putting your hands in the dirt. You are a Black woman. We understand that is a part of our history and also contributing to our economics back in the day. To bring things up to 2024 with things like food insecurities and food deserts, how important is it that folks that look like you and I, folks that may be close to the poverty level that don't like you and I, how important is it that we get involved? And you mentioned coming out, that we maybe learn some level of farming or gardening to the most minimum. Like Amy said, how important is it that we pay attention to that and maybe keep that tradition and get the mental health impact and know what it is to, I've made plenty of salads in my life, but in 2021, when I went home and cleaned the cucumber that I grew, the scallion, the peppers, the lettuce, and I forgot what else was in there. The banana peppers. There's no feeling like that. So there's the mental health impact. There's the economic impact growing your own food. Long question. I know you can get it. This is makeup for you not telling me who you was earlier. Go ahead, Pat.
We should all be growing food, number one, and that's part of our mission in the community to get everybody growing food. But more importantly, you might not change the way I eat right now. You might not. But let's get our youth, let's get our teens, let's get the folks that maybe they think a potato comes in the form of a French fry from some of our fast food places. Let's get all of those folks understanding what is really important in their health. And it truly is having hands in the dirt and growing your own food. That's some of what we do at the Urban Farming Institute. You bring in, for example, we'll bring in teens for volunteers. We've had over 500 volunteers so far this year learning about growing food. But you might bring in teens who say, I don't like salad. I don't eat that. That's rabbit food. I don't eat that stuff. And then what you do, though, is you have them harvest. You have them pull those beets and carrots out of the ground and say, oh, this is where a carrot comes from. You have them rinse that off, chop it up, make their own homemade salad dressing, teach them that you don't have to buy it at the store. When they eat that, it is amazing. So we do many different ways to bring people in to change the way they eat. Wonderful farm stand on Fridays, but then you combine that with a guest chef. One day I was in the office and I went downstairs and there were these two brothers, 8 and 10 years old, and they were just shoveling in string beans. It was like it's like ice cream. They were just shoveling those string beans. And I came down to take pictures and I said, well, how many string beans have you had? Well, we have had 2 helpings. I said, well, how do you like them? These are awesome string beans. These are the best string beans ever. I said, are you going to have more? Yes. That's what we want to do with our youth. We want to get them growing the food, excited about eating it, and understanding where food comes from. And then you also add what is also important is in Mattapan in particular, Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, that's where we grow, 6 different sites. But it's important to understand the diversity of those neighborhoods. So my family's from Jamaica. Callaloo is the green that we want. So we started growing callaloo. If you're from Haiti, it's lalo and eggplants because you're using it for a stew. Also, Lego, exactly. And so also Jamaica, Scotch bonnet, thyme. So we're not just growing food, which is healthy, but we're growing culturally relevant food that people want to eat. And that's what makes us a little bit different because we've got to be in total connection with our community if you're trying to change how someone eats, because that's complex. It's complex.
So Pat, you're taking me in a space because working with the young people, you mentioned the fact that, they'll learn that a French fry, a potato is not just the French fry, but let's talk about health. Let's talk about nutrition. Our young people, and I'm not going to just talk about our young people. We as a society post the industrialization of food, chemicals, pesticides, and things like that, I'm hearing you say that there may be an opportunity to get our young people and older changing the way we eat by actually being active on a farm. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And though I start talking about the babies to the teens, we cannot leave out our elders. There's Fit Around the Farm, meets twice a week. They do chair yoga. We even got them on Zoom during COVID. They do chair yoga. They bring in a guest chef. The guest chef is a registered nurse and dietitian. She's 83, but she's teaching our other elders.
Wait a minute, hold on. You said the guest chef is 83 years old.
Vibrant 83.
A vibrant 83 years old, because she ate her vegetables growing up. 83 years old, a guest chef and a nurse and a dietitian.
And she's teaching our elders because what happens is you start making minute rice because you get tired of cooking after a while. You start doing
the
canned
steam
soups
rice for 90 seconds.
Yeah,
in the back.
exactly.
I don't do that. I'm not. Go ahead.
So that changes when you get people involved. These same seniors now support us at the farm stand where they get their fresh vegetables, again, culturally relevant things that they want. And then, but that's mostly women. I'm like, well, what about our men of color? So nope, we got the Black Men's Gathering. We bring the men in, and they have suffered, we found, a lot of trauma. Yes. And we find that a lot of times women just kind of better calling your girlfriend, whatever, but the men have held things within them for as long as since they were 5 or 10. So we found that we are constantly doing programs so that they can talk together and be together and share. And one of the ways we do that is we are doing Barbershop Talk 3 coming up in September. So we create a barbershop right at the farm, and you come and get a free haircut, but that's when you talk and you get to see, it's intergenerational. You bring your grandchild, your grandson there, get a haircut, and we're talking, and the men are just bonding. And that's what we want to do on all levels. How do we bring people into this space of growing so that we can all grow together and in a healthy manner? So from the babies to, I think our oldest Fit Around the Farm person is 100.
So for those of you that watch the platform on the regular, 3, 4, 5 times a year, the last few years, I get stumped and really don't, I mean, I can come up and make up another question. I mean, it is amazing what you all are doing. And if I'm right, part of your network is the Clark Farm on Norfolk Street.
The Fowler Clark Epstein Farm, that is our headquarters, which I'm happy to say we have purchased for the community. It is ours and it's for the community. That happened in January. And couldn't have done it. Let me give a shout out to Mdar. Oh, thank you.
I was going to, we got a little sound effects, but I was going to ask you to talk about the partnership before you go, because go ahead. I'm sorry.
So 2 things. Mdar helped us get to this stage, from BCS tractors to rakes to soil and everything in between. If it were not for Mdar, it would have taken us, I don't know how long to get to the place that we are today. And that is commissioner after commissioner, and now with Commissioner Randall. And the best thing that I can say is, and your staff also, Commissioner, is I can call anybody anytime for help. So it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about a true connection with people that care about what we're doing, and people that are helping us to promote this thing called urban farming across the nation. But I'll also say this, I'm here representing UFI, but it's a shout out always to the farmers. Those are the ones that are out there in 100-degree temperature. And when you look at issues of stress, if it's 90 degrees in one place, it's an extra 10 if you're working in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. So the heat island effect has always been a tough scenario for us. But definitely shout out to the farmers. They're the ones that are out there. They're the ones doing the work. And they're the ones that are working with the volunteers and bringing in new people, and many of our community that have suffered some level of trauma. We don't shy away. We'll put you through our farmer training program. We've trained over 285 farmers in the last 10 years. The program will be back in 2025. Teen program as well this year. But the bottom line is we're dealing with folks that, have had some stuff happen to them, and we're all working together to uplift not only the farmers, but our community at the same time.
I mean, just, from Cheryl, who we know, and our commissioner who's going to come back, to Meg and Amy as well, and with you, and we're getting ready to hear from Dr. Hamid Bello. I don't know if Commissioner Randolph knew, or maybe there was some intent, I'm not sure, but there definitely is an underlying theme away from the growing of the agriculture. But what I'm sensing is through these partnerships with Mdar, they are growing people through the, foundation of agriculture, because we need to eat, we need to smell flowers, we need to be forgiven, we need to celebrate ourselves. But I can't wait till the next time I interview Governor Haley and let her know that it's just amazing what's going on at Mdar, and everybody that's been up here today exudes just sort of this. I just did not know that there was this community in Massachusetts. I just, I don't know if you know the Hammonds, Mary Armand White Hammond and them, they have a farm, it's outside of Massachusetts, but they're urban farmers. And
I've been up to the farm.
Mary Armand and Tehran, I haven't been up there yet, but next time Miss Pat comes up, I'm going to come up with her.
I'll tell you when.
Pat Spence, I am so honored to meet you today. It was worth feeling like I was being stalked and followed. No, I messed it up. She really, she was like, are you doing the podcast? I was like, what is your name? But no, I'm so glad to have you here. And along with all of our other guests today, there is really this sort of a persona of those that are in the agricultural industry. I guess this is the point of the hands. I guess this is the point of the joy, the peer support and different things that Meg talked about as well. And so, Ms. Spence, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And red is our brand color, so I'm enjoying the red.
Thank you so much.
Listen, everyone, we have a couple of more. You can go ahead and, we can give her a hand. We have a couple of more folks. This wonderful doctor. Now, first of all, y'all wait till he comes into the camera.
I didn't get the memo for red, so I truly apologize. Yeah. Sorry.
So y'all know I'm organic and in real time. The brother got the boots, the hat. The only reason why you don't see this often in Massachusetts.
Yes.
There is a population of hat wearing, boot wearing farmers in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And a black man at that.
Always have to represent.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thanks for asking.
This is Dr. Hamid Bello. Yeah. He is the owner of, now let me see if I can be 3 for 3. Agric Organics?
Yes.
I got it right?
Yes.
I'm doing very well today. So please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. You can tell us where you're from originally and from here in Boston and whatnot. But I'm curious to know who you are and what it is that you do. And then we're going to talk about your partnership with Mdar. And then I'd like to hear from you, because we've had women up here talk about the impact of farming on mental health. And we asked about like men, and you're the only, along with me, you're the only testosterone holder today. So we're going to infringe upon you a little bit in your journey here. And so please introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll get into some questions.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Dr. Hamid, and I'm a trained pharmacist, and beyond that, I'm also a farmer, right? And just a little bit about myself. I was born in Africa. I grew up in the UK, and also then migrated to Texas, and then now I'm here in Massachusetts. So I've been fortunate enough to be everywhere, just sort of learning and growing up. And sort of what we do at Agric Organics is we farm. And the reason why Agric Organics was birthed was we had a neighbor when I moved to Massachusetts with my lovely wife that was struggling to get to the local markets, right? And we said, hey, we have this agricultural knowledge. How can we serve, right? So we decided to just start a farm back then in our small backyard, and we started to grow and sell, and then it became Agric Organics. So Agric Organics is simply what we do and how we do it. What we do is agriculture, and how we do it is the organic way.
So let me back up a little bit. You're a registered certified pharmacist and a farmer.
Yes.
How do you take your I'm just going to go into my own questions right now.
Go ahead.
How do you take your knowledge from the pharmaceutical world? I'm sure you apply that in some of your growth processes. Am I correct?
Yes, certainly. There's symbiotic relationship between pharmaceuticals and also the farming world. Sure. And there's this talk now where we're trying to make sure we sort of position ourselves as food is medicine. Right. And, growing up in Africa, my parents, it was all about natural medicine. Right. And, we can go to the backyard and cut this tree bark, cook it up and drink it. And then your stomach ailment is gone, or you have like this injury and you take this leaf and then, right. And those are what birthed the pharmaceutical industry. Right. So you'd be surprised how a lot of the active ingredients in pharma comes from nature, right? And to today, right, the aloe veras, the different things, right? So in being a farmer and a pharmacist, I understand the importance of nutrition, right? And how having the right nutrition also has that symbiotic relationship with the medication that you use, right? So if you eat right, the medication works a lot better, right? So the important things is getting that nutrient into your system. So yes, we do ensure that we sort of educate people. So even on our signs, we say, hey, you're purchasing kale. Here are the nutritional benefits of kale, right? The different vitamins that you're going to get from it. So that way people can start to empower themselves and sort of know that what they're eating also affect their overall well-being.
It's so interesting that you talk about this. A couple of months ago, I had a registered nutritionist on, and she was talking about in this space of mental health, she was making the correlation of gut health. Things like B complex deficiency can actually contribute to, on the negative end of mental illness. Having certain vegetables can help address certain chemical imbalances, often that some mental struggles are attributed to. And so I think it's quite remarkable that you're making the correlation between sort of plants and medicine. Couple of questions I want to go back on. This is again personal. What part of Africa are you from?
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Africa, yeah.
So if I say things like palm butter and that's, I think that's a Liberian, or tell me.
I understand what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So do you make that on your farm?
No, no, unfortunately. No.
No, I'm messing. My mother's former husband was from Africa, and I believe he was Liberian. So I'm kind of familiar with some of the food. Yeah. And also when you talk about some of the natural remedies, we have to, maybe consider that, as you said, food is medicine, and we really have to take consideration of that. We get, now, no offense, you're a pharmacist and you're a farmer. How do you balance the food is medicine, and then sometimes there may be some people that have an issue with big pharma or pharmaceuticals, chemicals and whatnot. How do you balance that out for yourself?
It's all about education, right? So we sort of try to educate the consumer. I'm going to use an example. So let's say Hamid has iron deficiency.
Yes.
Right. And, we say, hey, you know what? Your doctors told us that you're not adherent to your iron supplements. Right. So why not have some beets? Right. And then they start to have beets, and then we say, hey, this is how you can cook it. You can roast it. You can add this to it, or you can make it into a smoothie or a juice and stuff like that. And then they go back to their doctor's office and they're like, hey, my iron levels are normal, but I haven't been using my medication. Oh, what's changed? It's because I've been eating iron-rich food, right? And to them, it clicks. It's like, oh, okay. Now, instead of using 2 tablets a day, I could just use 1, right? And I just continue to eat my iron-rich food, right? And different type of comorbidities, we say, hey, this patient, it's important for you to eat greens, right? okay, we know you're not adhering to your medication. Why not eat greens once a week? Right. And in some cases, there's some patients where, greens is eating a lot of greens is not good for them. Right. And we say, hey, if you eat this amount of greens, it might increase, your INR levels, for example, or stuff like that. And we say, you know what? How about you just eat this much quantity just once a week rather than every day and stuff like that. So when you sort of educate them and you sort of see the changes, it makes a lot of differences because they can see and they can feel it, right? And it affects their activities of daily living because now they're more agile. They don't have to take 10, 12 medications, right? And all they have to worry about is what they're consuming.
And it's really more healthy for you anyway, because when you eat more natural products, when you eat sort of homegrown or go to the farmer's market or come here to Boston Public Market or go to your farm or other farms, there's less chemicals in those vegetables. And so just to be sure, clarifying question, what is it that you grow on your farm? And are there any products that you create from your pharmaceutical background based on the things that you grow on your farm?
Yeah, so we just grow a lot of vegetables. Unfortunately, we're not there where we have value-added products yet, sometime in the future. But a lot of the vegetables that we grow, we try to get it directly to our community. And one of the things that we did, being in Western Mass, was we did a needs assessment of our community based on the different stories and experiences that we've been hearing. And also as it relates to mental health for the farmer, the needs assessment educated us that in order for our farm to be sustainable and to limit the stresses on ourselves, we needed a sustainable sales outlet for the consumer and also for us. So that's why we said, hey, we're going to open up a small scale superette, like a small scale grocery store that we're calling Farm Store 99. So it's going to be opening up soon in downtown Springfield, and then the consumer can go in there and purchase our products at between the 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And also we can now then focus on what we do best, which is growing and education, right? And making sure that now we establish a sustainable enterprise that can also benefit the community and also reduce the stress of farming as it relates to a viable income source. Yeah.
So right there, before we let you go, I need to ask you, as a man, as a Black man, all of our guests had spoke about or made reference to mental health. And I asked, I believe it was Meg, and I'm not sure who else, about maybe some percentages of men, the 1% of the workforce, that 1% of the workforce is in agriculture. Just all those different type of dynamics of that portion. It may be, a lot of men, and we talked about mental health. From your experience and experience, and you smiled when you talked about that outlet and that enterprise. You're bringing workforce development, you're employing people. That's good. And again, you smiled about that outlet. How important is it that you and men and people in the farming industry in general be intentional about mental health? I didn't know a lot of the things that I learned today from Meg and others about the impact of being a food grower or a flower grower or in agriculture here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So I think the key thing that you mentioned is being intentional, right? So as farmers, either male or female, we're wired providers. Right, we like to provide, and being a provider sometimes, denotes having to be protective, right? Because you want to be the one to sort of like make it work, and in making it work means you sort of carry the burden and the stresses of things, and either male or female farmers, it's like if we don't make it work, the staff does not get paid. Right. And if the staff does not get paid, that means their family are having issues. Right. And if a staff comes to you and say, hey, I need a day or two pay ahead of time, you can let them see what's going on in the back end, saying, you know what, that crop that we were gonna harvest, you see the rain, the root rot. You just make it happen, right? So, but to your question is, I think we need to start doing what Mdar is doing in terms of having a conversation that matters,
Yes.
right? What we're doing now and bringing awareness to this issue, and also sort of understanding that, you know, the stresses, the depression, and the mental issues are not something that we can see, right? And it's cool to talk about it, because when a farmer, if you see a farmer with a broken arm, it's cool to hear that story. Or if you see a farmer tell a story about how their hand got stuck in a tractor, you're eager to, oh, what happened to your hand? You know, and stuff like that. But mental health and those stresses, it's not cool to engage in those conversations. So what we're doing now and bringing awareness is the first step of being intentional, right? And also as a man and as a farmer, the one thing that we need to do is sort of have a better understanding within ourselves. It's okay not to be okay, right? And sort of have that understanding, like it's okay not to be okay, even if I have to go cry down the field at the back of the acre and just let it out.
Wait a minute, hold on. I have to ask. You were very specific there. Have you been down to the back of the anchor crying?
I plead the fifth, but it's okay, right? Just being in the greenhouse all by yourself and just like, dang it, irrigation went out and I didn't notice it in time. You know, because as a farmer, you have to be multifaceted. You have to be the engineer, you have to be the carpenter, you have to be the lawyer, you have to be this and that, you know, and it's okay to just also sort of let some of those roles go and in turn decrease the stress and burden on yourself, even as a male farmer or as a farmer in general.
What I heard there, I just want to say one word, is delegation. And being a leader often, it gets interesting in delegating. And so Dr. Hamid, who is a pharmacist, a farmer, and just a cowboy hat, boot wearing, like this. Can we give him a hand real quick? The whole aesthetic and everything.
No,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Anything else?
I'm a cowboy, so
You're a cowboy.
yes,
You're
yes.
a bona fide cowboy.
I'm a horse riding, you know, gun toting cowboy.
You guys are out on the farmers.
I have my horses and everything. You're welcome to come and join us.
We're gonna get you on a whole nother show and talk about the black cowboys and farmers and whatnot. But sir, I really appreciate you being here, and thank you for being continuing the notion of the importance of mental health and speaking specifically on behalf of the brothers. It is much appreciated. I'm gonna have to make my way out to Springfield, sir.
Hey,
much appreciated.
Would love to have you anytime. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day.
Listen, folks, before we go, you can give them a hand. We're going to end where we started, and I'm going to infringe upon our commissioner to maybe come back and chat with me a little bit of a synopsis. She started this whole thing in reference, I believe, to the mental health impact of what Mdar does, and the peer support network and just different things that goes on within the Mdar. Again, for folks that follow me and watch the regular show, they know when I start stuttering and flipping over the words, I either need to eat or I just really don't. I didn't know. I really, and I've, been around Boston Public Market. The governor's been on, I'm State House adjacent. I would have never known. So I want to thank you and Boston Public Market and everyone for this opportunity, because similar to Java with Jimmy, people talk about we have a community. You're overseeing a whole community of people that contribute to the economy, that grow food, that help address food insecurities. And Commissioner, talk, please. Save me.
Well, thank you again, Jimmy, for the opportunity, and all of our farmers today. I think, as you'll see, we talked about mental health, but really the theme is how authentic and genuine our farming community is. And I don't like to say that I oversee the department. I work with a team and
You
with our
steward
farmers.
and shepherd the department. Let's say, will you settle with that? Because you're not just signing papers and all that. I mean,
We've
the
got
persona of
tomatoes to
every
taste.
entity. We got tomatoes to taste, but the persona or the character of an entity is often attributed to the leader. And I know you'll probably say there were those before you, and you got to give homage to our governor. But can we just give our commissioner a hand real quick? Go ahead.
Thank you, Jimmy. And one of the other things I'll just mention that hearing from the farmers today, certainly there are challenges in agriculture, but I also think there are so many opportunities. And our work at Mdar is to help be able to identify those opportunities, support one another. And as you can see, diversity is one of our greatest strengths. And that's what makes my job so enjoyable, is the people I get to meet, the work that we get to do. And I like to say, and I feel this to my core, that if we can have more faces in more places in agriculture, we'll be better for it. And that is my hope and my time at the department, is we can continue to bring more people into agriculture and really support and enhance the diversity of Massachusetts agriculture.
It is just remarkable today. I want to celebrate the fact, and I'm glad that Dr. Bello was able to represent, men, but I just want to highlight the fact that most of our panel today was made up of women. Mm-hmm. You're a woman that's leading the agricultural department there, state of Massachusetts, with our governor. And so today was really just amazing. I love doing this, but I love those little pockets of what, not trivial, but trivia, like just everything that we learned about folks today and what they're doing. And we have this cowboy here in Massachusetts, like, we got to get up to Springfield. But it was just so amazing. And I got to say, again, you were the one that just mentioned, sort of, as I believe Meg was first, talking about the mental health intentionality with Mdar. When you hear about it, as Dr. Bello said, you don't make crop, if I'm using the right word, you don't make crop, or your harvest isn't what you wanted it to be, then that affects the staff, which then can affect their families. And then if they don't come to work because they're stressed, and then when you get a good crop or harvest, there's so many dynamics to this. And so I just really appreciate all that you're doing and the department is doing to make sure that we have folks that are supported who are in the space of agriculture.
And thank you for helping to shine a light on our unsung heroes and all that you do to support mental health and wellness across the state.
It is definitely a pleasure to do it. And Commissioner, before we get ready to wrap up and go, what is the website? Any announcements? Again, anything that we can share with the audience around either resources, or we know the Harvest Fest is coming here. Anything that we forgot today to name or celebrate?
There's always something to celebrate in agriculture. So you can follow us on Facebook at the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. And if you want to look up any of our programs or services that we offer, if you go to mass.gov/Mdar, you can find out more about the work that we're doing.
So once again, it was an honor to be back here at Boston Public Market today. Your second appearance with us. So you're doing better than some other folks on the regular show. But our commissioner was with us today, and I really appreciate all of our guests. Can we give all of our guests a hand that was with us today? Our Meg from the Peer Network, and also Amy Hirschfield, who I got it right, from Sulana Garden, and also Pat Spence. That's kind of easy, the Urban Farming Institute. Yeah. And then also Dr. Hamid Bello, who is from organics. And so we'll share their information and websites on my social media page later. But Commissioner, again, I thank you for the opportunity to highlight all the great work that's going on in the agricultural space here in Massachusetts. I want to thank Cheryl and the team here at Boston Public Market, and thank all of you, the viewers today, and the ones that said, Jimmy, turn the sound up. Thank all of you for being here. And today is Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Today is Tuesday, and so we'll see you tomorrow morning on Regular Java with Jimmy at 9 a.m. We have our guest, We have our guest, Jasmine McNeese, that's going to be with us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So don't forget, come down to Boston Public Market, get fruits and vegetables. When we post the information about our guests today, check them out. If you're a farmer, if you're looking to getting into farming, if you want to get your hands dirty, hit Miss Pat. If you want to go get some flowers, look up or come down to Boston Public Market, Saluna Garden Farm. If you want to find out about the peer network, that's Mass Grown Wellness Peer Support Network. It is all happening under the auspices of Mdar, and they're celebrating mass grown wellness and what they're doing in their programming. And not just in the programming for today, but just this exudes throughout, I believe, the whole department. And so, Commissioner, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm a little tired, which means that this was a good show and good interview. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great day, everybody.